coming as an alien. Which lens ultimately are you looking at? Now, if you go with this lens and you go, okay, these beings have been here, the fallen angels. So part of their charade is to rebrand themselves as aliens because they want to rebrand the second coming as an alien invasion and gather the nations against the King of Kings. That's where this is going. They've been giving us technology, that's what the Industrial Revolution has been all about, and bring us up to speed so that we can have a war of angels.
When you say giving us technologies, you're saying the fallen angels are doing that?
Yeah, because when you look at the Book of Enoch, which is a book quoted in the New Testament, they gave huge bodies of knowledge to that created this incredibly advanced world before the flood. And after the flood, they continued to give knowledge to the civilizations. If you look at the libraries of Mesopotamia, where we have unearthed millions of tablets, the most important topic is the gods, the Eloni in their language, Elohim in the Bible. It talks about all the bodies of knowledge they gave to the cities at the basis of civilization. And we have detailed accounts of the knowledge they give. And in the Bible as well, God tells, Moses and Solomon how to build a temple, gives them architectural plans. All of the codes of law that have been given down by these beings form the basis of the worldview that you and I are operating in. So many of our ideas, were spoken. For instance, Jesus comes and he teaches, and his words go into the Roman Empire and transform the Roman Empire, and an entire new age of history comes up based on his teaching.
Hey there, I'm Kendra Adachi, and my show, The Lazy Genius Podcast, helps you be a genius about the things that matter and lazy about the things that don't, and you get to decide what matters. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to give you a new way to see. Episodes of the Lazy Genius Podcast are full of compassionate time management tips and permission slips to do what makes sense for you. New episodes drop every Monday. Follow and listen to the Lazy Genius Podcast on the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Then same with Allah, same with Krishna. So knowledge has come down from these guys, always has formed civilization, and now we see this uptick today. And because we know the seasons of history and the times we're living in, because the Bible says that when you see the Jewish people return to this land en masse, then know that this is kind of the birth pang of the final stage of the final age. And it's in 1947-48 when the Jewish people returned after the Holocaust that the UFO phenomenon begins, really, in 1947 with the sighting of Kenneth Arnold over the Cascade Mountains, where Mount Shasta is located, which is a place of occult spirituality. And so we see that this season of history, these guys have come up for the final battle with the King of Kings. And because we're in the heavens and on the earth, and they are rebranding as aliens. So some of the things they do, like cattle mutilation and removing organs without any blood and all that, they may have an actual use for it, but I think that it's also part of their theater of ET, I call it. They're really going out of their way to appear to us as aliens. So first they rebrand the heavens into the idea of the universe. Then they reinvent the host of the heavens as in the Darwinian paradigm, aliens. Like, this is centuries in the making. That's why these secret societies, the Masons and things like that are very much of these scientists who are part of it, like Newton and Galileo especially. And from there, when this phenomenon appears, our culture, our scientific culture in the West, secularized, completely detached from the Bible, is ripe for the deception of the alien deception, where they rebrand as alien. And then, as we get closer to the rise of the final empire, and we're told that the leader of the world is going to make fire come from heaven and do lying signs and wonders, he's going to make an ET connection, I think, once he's in power, and he's going to suddenly say, look, these guys are here to help us with the environment and with all kinds of poverty and this and that, and they've chosen me. And there's these bad guys on the way, because it says in Isaiah 66, the Lord will come with his chariots. And the word is Merkava. There are two words in the Bible that talk about the things that God and the angels ride. One is Rechev, which is what the angels ride, Rechev Elohim. And the other is Merkava, which is what the mobile throne of God. And it's translated as vehicle or chariot in the Old English. So the Lord will come with his angels as cavalry. That's one of the translations of the word Rechev, which is cavalry, and God is called the Lord of Hosts, which means heaven's armies in Hebrew, Adonai Tzvaot. So it literally means that there's armies in heaven, and these guys are traveling inside of the universe, and perhaps more, but the word heavens in the Bible includes the universe. And so they're coming. This is the true nature of the world of angels, but because we've lost connection with the scriptural way of looking at angels, and our minds have been filled with Renaissance art and this super magical fairy tale spiritualizing. And then on the other hand, we've got secularism and Darwinism inventing the concept of aliens for us. It's created distortion in our thinking. We don't see the connection, and it's allowed these fallen angels to rebrand inside of this new paradigm they've created for us, where they've extracted us from the true nature of reality, which is we are in the heavens and on the earth, in God's creation and in a cosmic tale, and they've transplanted us in a paradigm they've invented for us, where we're in the universe born of chance, full of gases and chemical reactions, and lo and behold, full of aliens, all because it says in the Bible in many, many passages that the world, the kings of the nations, will go to war against the second coming of God. And you think, well, that's insane. I mean, why would anyone ever do that? I mean, not believing in God is one thing. Rebelling against God is another thing. But going to war against God when he finally manifests himself with his angels and there's no more doubt and every eye shall see him and all that, doesn't make sense. It's insane. Unless, of course, you have been deceived. And the Bible speaks of an end-time deception of incredible magnitude, the delusion, the lie, it says.
Okay, wait, hold on one second. That just jar my memory about Reagan making his speech, and sometimes you'll see them refer back to that if there was an alien invasion, everyone would come together, and you know what I'm saying? I mean, that would bring I see that clearly. Oh yeah.
You see? So they're preparing us, and they're giving us technology, because when we think of angels, like in the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, where God sends these two angels to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, it's been the medieval church has decided for all of us that everything happens with magic. Like God closes his eyes and he thinks, and stones levitate and sulfur rains from the sky. But what we see in the Bible is that the angels are beings like us. They're in the physical world. They're in the creation. They just know more about the laws of creation than we do. Now, we have been discovering how to break the nucleus of the atom, how to cut DNA, and how to, enter into the heavens with Sputnik, the first satellite that was sent up by the Soviets. So we are doing the stuff these beings are doing, of the angels are doing, because we're of their world, and because in the Bible and in the book of Enoch, for instance, that gives us a huge window into the nature of angels, we see that the angels are presented as those who give the bodies of knowledge to humans that we would call science. Even in the book of Genesis, Cain, the brother of Abel, he builds a city, and he demonstrates knowledge of architecture and geometry. And of course, the fallen angels then tap into that knowledge and pervert it for their own use.
Okay, wait. You said tap into that knowledge, like they're influencing his thoughts?
No, they're literally revealing, like in the book of Genesis, there's an entire line of Cain's children, and it says so-and-so is the first person to come up with music, and so-and-so is the first person to come up with metallurgy, and it's all about idol worship and singing and worshiping these beings. They literally give bodies of knowledge. Like, okay, you know about architecture? We're going to give you the formulas to build a pagan temple where we will manifest and you will worship us and you will receive laws from us. Like the Code of Hammurabi, where you see the king of Babylon receiving a law from the sun god Shams, who will be known as Apollo by the Greeks. These beings have been interacting with our world, but they have turned the past into a myth and created a gap for us in our thinking, and they're reintroducing themselves as aliens to us, like they've just arrived. Like, hello, we just got here. And the myth of the UFO movement is they've come to help us at a time of crisis. They don't want nuclear weapons to come into the universe. I mean, look at the day the Earth stood still, a movie created in 1951 or 52. at the very dawn of the whole UFO phenomenon, but already it echoes the message that aliens have come here to make sure we put away our warlike ways before we enter into the galactic community. This becomes this propaganda as part of the deception. This is fallen angelic demonic deception. It's powerful. It has sway over the people. Then the Lord at the same time comes and gives us through the Holy Spirit discernment into passages in the Bible that previous generations of the church didn't need to see or know or didn't understand it this way, and says, look guys, actually the Bible is the book that records an uninterrupted version of history. And this is what it says, that the gods of the nations were not mythological beings. They were the fallen angels. They do fly in chariots, like both the nations have recorded and the Bible has recorded. And they've continued to be here. At the end of the age, a final empire rises, where these guys are given power, like the days of Noah. They choose one of their own, the seed of the serpent, it's called the Antichrist. They give him power, and now the conjecture is that the alien lie, where the fallen angels are rebranding as ET, they are going to, it's a conjecture, but it sounds pretty sound, that they would rebrand the second coming of Christ as an alien invasion and gather the world against him, and fulfilling the prophecies that says the kings of the earth will be deceived. The Lord.
Well, let me ask you this real quick. I have to jump in here because before I forget it, I had a guest come on years ago. He talked about the name of the show actually is "There Are No Aliens." Space doesn't exist or something like that, and we live on a flat plane of existence. So I was going to ask you that because you talked about the nature of our reality, and when I have people come on and talk about flat Earth and that the globe was, that idea was created to make us think that the world is round. No one even knows that, and has not known it, and still doesn't know it. I was wanting to ask you, do we live on a flat plane of existence? Is the earth round? What is the Bible? The Bible doesn't say that it's round, but I've always wanted to get you to tell me what you think about it, or how the Bible describes the planet we live on.
The heliocentric, the idea that we are in a round ball going around the sun, was that part of the lie deception created by these guys? Or is that really the way it is? Now, the Bible says that there is a passage in Isaiah that calls the earth the sphere of the earth. I haven't really, dug too deep in all the passages that flat earthers are pointing to, but I do think to myself that if there's a conspiracy to maintain, this lie, it would mean that the departments of physics and space programs from the entire planet Earth, from India to China to Russia to France and England and America, everywhere, they're all in it. They're all like, you go to school and at some point they go, look, the Earth is really flat, but we're going to pretend that it's not, okay?
The reason why I say that, if that's true, that would make sense for what you're saying to me, because they want you to believe that you're on a globe and that there are other planets out there and that there are other aliens, traveling from wherever, visiting us. That would give that, that narrative more credence, wouldn't it?
No, that's true, and it does come from them. So there's another consideration we have to take, which is that the Greeks, they became Christians 2,000 years ago, and so much of the eastern part of the Roman Empire, which was close to Israel, where the missionaries came from, were Greek-speaking, and they were completely Hellenized in their culture and in their philosophies and worldview, and they were very, very civilized and educated people. They just didn't have technology like we do, but they had everything else pretty much that we have. And there were kind of people like us, basically, living in cities and considering all kinds of issues that we are wrestling with as well. And so as the church became filled with the Greeks, they started to bring some of their thinking into Christianity. So in the Bible, Jesus comes back to life. He's physical. He comes to his disciples. He says, I'm not a ghost. A spirit does not have flesh and bone as you see me have. He to confirm his physical nature, he says, "Do you have any food?" And he asks if they have fish and honey, and they give it to him, and he eats it. So the New Testament really goes out of its way to emphasize the physical nature of the resurrected Christ, of the resurrected Messiah. And then he ascends in a white cloud, like the prophecies of Daniel had said, that a white cloud will bring him to the presence of God. He ascends in a white cloud from the Mount of Olives, just outside of the city of Jerusalem. It goes up into a white cloud and is taken to the Father. And he's the son of King David from the tribe of Judah on his mother's side. And he's the son of God because she becomes, impregnated by the presence of God descending over her. There's already a spirit version of Jesus in heaven. It's called the Holy Spirit. God has manifested himself in time and space by extending his spirit into it. But he's also manifested himself as a physical being, the angel of the Lord in the Old Testament and Jesus, in the New Testament. So there's already a version of God, that spirit version that's physical, and then there's the Father who inhabits eternity and is outside of time and space. The Greeks come in and they start to say, no, the highest form of spirituality is non-physical. And they start to superimpose a non-physical world in the imagination of the church that is more sophisticated than a physical world, that the ultimate manifestation of God is that Jesus is gradually turned into a spirit, living in a world of spirits, and when people die, they go there and become a spirit and are within the world of spirits. By the 4th century, Origen, who was the teacher of Augustine, said,
Hi, I'm PJ Vogt, and I want to tell you about my podcast, Search Engine. We try to make sense of the world, one question at a time. No question too big, no question too small. We will even answer your questions if you send them in. Stuff like, what happens when a cemetery goes out of business? What should we do about teens using AI to do their homework? Who buys luggage at the airport luggage store? Follow and listen to Search Engine in partnership with Odyssey, wherever you get your podcasts.
Augustine, who's very influential, whose thinkings shape the church. Before any division, everyone is in the single church, and St. Augustine's teachings are influencing the DNA of Christianity, all branches, every version of Christianity. And he then Origen, his teacher, teaches him a very spiritualized view of reality. Everything is a symbol, prophecies are symbolic, allegorical. The world, the physical world is not really where it's at. And by the time we get to the Middle Ages, we see that Christianity is completely divided between those who believe that studying the physical world is studying the creation of God, and those who believe that we should only focus on the soul, because the spiritual world is non-physical and the physical world is a lesser profane place. And then as the early Christians, the Christians in the Middle Ages that create science to study the creation of God, they become more and more secularized. And by the time we get to the Renaissance, we start to see a division between seculars and eventually, by the 18th century, the atheists, who are simply studying the physical world and don't care about anything spiritual or related to God. And then the Christians start to identify themselves more and more as those who believe through faith in a mystical, magical world called the spirit world. So more and more the idea of the universe and the idea of the physical creation, which is called blessed, which is a very important part of the Bible, and the Messiah is resurrected as a physical being because God is not done with the physical world. And more these things fall off over the course of centuries. And so Christians believe in a ghostly world of magical beings, and they lose sight of this magnificent thing we're inside of that is very much part of what the Bible has. Then comes our time, and we start to focus